Hey everybody, it's Brooke with the Buttered Home again. I guess I had turned my phone prematurely and had typed everything in, and it wasn't great. And now my lighting looks funny. Tanner, can you look and see? All kind of technical difficulties tonight, but now that's what makes Facebook Live so much fun, right? So we'll try this again. Give us a wave. Let us know you're here joining us. We're going to cook live tonight. I have not pre-prepared the food except for, yeah, I think it looks good, except for I went ahead and browned the hamburger meat just to save a little bit of time. I don't like to be on here any longer than I have to be, so this is where we are. So first of all, I want to thank you all for joining me tonight live. Live events are a little nerve-wracking, and anytime I do any kind of Facebook Live, I get all jittery and all silly. I mean, you all know, you've heard me in the grocery store, and I hide. And here at home, it's not much different. It's a little crazy and a little nervous because I have to rush home from work and have to get everything ready and kind of freshen up a little bit so I won't look like death when I get on here for y'all, but that's another story. Anyway, tonight we're going to be cooking my husband, Danny, his favorite dish ever. It's called Marin Joes Special. And just a little bit about Marin Joes Special. We watch a lot of Food Network. As a matter of fact, if I watch any TV at all, it's Food Network. Probably the only other thing I watch is Game of Thrones. Don't judge me. And Better Call Saul. So don't judge me there either. So I watch very little television. I like to watch a little bit early Saturday mornings. So this was actually a recipe that was featured on Triple D, or Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. And Marin Joes is an actual restaurant in Marin County, California. It was started in 1954 by a family and is currently run by the original owner's two sons. I did have their name in my head and it just left me. Anyway, it looks like a very basic kind of blue plate special. But I promise you, if you cook it, it's just something about the flavor combinations. But whenever you take everything separately and look at it, you think, that looks a little boring. Trust me, it's not. It's a really easy recipe for anybody to try. The only thing that are kind of out of the way you might have to have are mushrooms, but you don't have to put mushrooms in it. With that being said, I'm going to heat up my oil for the mushrooms because we cook those first. So I'll be right back with you. And I'm just using a couple of tablespoons of canola oil. And we're going to let that heat while I talk just a little bit more. So Marin Joes Special is a special that they serve. It's very popular at this restaurant, Marin Joes in California. So it's really easy to cook here at home. Pretty much it's hamburger meat. It's mushrooms, onions, spinach, and eggs. And that's pretty much it. Now, there are a few seasonings that are added in, like garlic and nutmeg of all things, but it's just very little nutmeg, so just enough to give it kind of a warm flavor. Salt and pepper, and of course, you finish it with Parmesan cheese. So it's very good, and you can cook it with ground turkey as well. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put my onions and mushrooms in my pan, and then I'll move the camera. This way, if I make a mess, you don't get to see it. Okay, so now I'll go about the task of giving you the panoramic view of the messy kitchen while I move the camera and bounce you all around. But I know you guys love me, so you'll bear with me. Be sure and let us know you're here and where you're watching from while we're getting everything kind of set up. And I think we're good. Can you see me? Somebody let me know if you can see everything. Okay. All right. So now what you see here is I have one small white onion, and I have about 8 ounces of just regular plain white mushrooms. And like I said, I've added a couple of tablespoons of canola oil in, and I keep my canola oil in a handy dandy squirt bottle so it's easy to use. And just like everything else that we cook that has multiple ingredients, you want to salt and pepper as you go. And I forgot to mention, it does take a little bit of Worcestershire sauce too, and I'm pretty sure I'm not pronouncing that correctly as well. But you'll see I've already cooked a little over a pound, maybe a pound and a quarter of hamburger meat, and I've browned it. Now you don't have to do that beforehand. I just did it for time constraints. So I've got my heat up kind of high. The mushrooms and onions, you just want to cook until they soften. And the salt, as I told you last week, the salt kind of helps speed that process up. The onions have a good bit of water in them. So what the salt does is the salt kind of tends to render the water out of the onions and makes them soft and translucent. The mushrooms, on the other hand, they're a little bit woody and stemmy. So they have to cook and sort of caramelize and brown to soften. See how they're turning a nice brown color? It really doesn't take very long at all. You just want to kind of keep things moving around on a medium to high heat. And of course, if you're not trying to do all this in 20 minutes like I am, you can cook it a little bit slower and actually let the mushrooms, just put them in a single layer and just leave them be for like 5 to 7 minutes, only stirring just a time or two. But because we are on a time schedule with Facebook Live, I'm just tending to move them around a little bit just because I want them to soften a little faster. And I'm cooking at a little bit of a higher temperature than you have to. Now what's great about this is it is your main course. It's got a lot of protein. I have cooked it with ground turkey before. I have cooked it with a hamburger or ground turkey halved with Italian sausage, and it's very good with Italian sausage. You can kind of leave out some of the spices if you do with Italian pre-seasoned sausage. So it works really well with whatever protein you can think. The spinach that you add in also is an added boost of protein. And look, notice how my volume has decreased. Those mushrooms, they cook down a good bit, which is good because the baby, she's not a big mushroom fan. But they somehow put a flavor in this like no other. It gives it a woody, warm flavor. Now what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to put the nutmeg in here because I want it to kind of go with the mushrooms. And I have a whole nutmeg here. Now you can use nutmeg that comes already ground, and that's fine. It probably maybe takes 1/8 of a teaspoon. It just really doesn't need much. But look, if you can find these nutmeg, which you can at a lot of supermarkets these days, and just buy you 1 or 2, I mean, I wish you could smell it. There's really nothing like it. It doesn't taste like a pumpkin pie. It doesn't taste like a sweet potato pie. It turns into something else completely when you add it to a savory dish like this. Alright, so my mushrooms have cooked down a good bit. So now I'm going to go ahead and add in my ground beef. And this is already cooked, so it doesn't have to cook any longer. We just simply kind of want to heat it up. and kind of get the flavors to marry one another. At this point, because I don't want my garlic to burn, I'm going to add it with the hamburger meat so that it can just kind of go in and perfume the food. The garlic is chopped real fine, so it's not like you're going to bite into a big hunk of garlic and ward off vampires for the rest of the night. I used about 2 tablespoons of garlic there. So I'm just getting everything mixed in and getting the mixture to heat back up. And next I'm going to make a little hole in the center. Well, first, before I do that, I'm going to give it a shake of Worcestershire. And, you know, you might use a tablespoon. You know me, I don't measure very much. And I know I should, but I don't measure very much. But you just want enough to where you can smell it just a tad whenever it's cooking. And we can. So now I'm going to make that hole. And then here I have 4 eggs. And I have just whisked them up with a fork so they'll scramble. And I'm going to pour those directly in the middle. And we're just going to let them sit for just a second. Now you'll see I have spinach. It looks like a lot of spinach, but it's really not. It's really only about 12 ounces of fluffed spinach. So, and it's going to cook down a good bit. So we'll show you that in just a second. That's actually going to be the last thing that we add. But look how pretty. And I've already kind of rinsed it off and dried it. So now you can see the eggs are starting to cook. So at this point, I just kind of start stirring and bringing in the meat and onion and mushrooms. And this is like a meat version of fried rice. Have you ever watched them at the restaurants and they cook that, they add that egg in at the last minute so that it can kind of scramble through, and what it does is it just kind of holds everything together. So you see you have the flecks of egg in there. It's all cooked up very nicely. So at this point, I'm going to add in the spinach. And talk about fast. I mean, really, it only takes you probably, maybe, at the most, what, 10 minutes to brown your meat? So it really, really doesn't take long at all. So I just got some tongs because my pan is kind of full, so I want to help speed up the wilting process of the spinach. And you do that by putting the hot food on it. And you see it's starting to shrink, just like the mushrooms did. And it's the messy kitchen, so you know I'm making a mess. I'm slinging food everywhere. So you've got your protein, you've got your vegetables, you've got pretty much everything you need. Now this is good served over rice. It's good served with mashed potatoes. It's good served right by itself. Way to go, Tanner. Tanner's tearing down the kitchen over here.
I'm not tearing it down. I'm cleaning it up as you go.
Bless her sweet self. She's cleaning up the kitchen for me. If you'll notice, if you watch many of my Messy Kitchen Mondays, you know, I always say that I'm going to reply to things after we're done. And it usually takes me a little while. My house may be messy and my kitchen may be messy, but I have a complex about cleaning my kitchen up. I have the hardest time going to bed at night with dishes in my sink. And I think that that comes from growing up in a house where I was the dishwasher. We didn't have a dishwasher. My mother still does not have a dishwasher. If I wash her dishes in my dishwasher, she re-washes them by hand. No lie. She will tell you this. She owns up to it. So, you know, high temperature wash in the old washing dishwasher is not enough. She's going to re-wash whatever I wash for her. But that's her prerogative. She has earned that, and I'll give it to her. So, you know, just knowing that, growing up not having a dishwasher, you know, it's almost lazy to leave stuff in the sink, I think. But that's just me now. That's not saying that you're lazy if you leave dishes in the sink. I'm not making assumptions about anybody. That's just an OCD hang-up I have, which is odd because if you've ever been in my house, you'll see I'm not very OCD. So now we're going to turn the heat down. And y'all, it's ready. We just have one more thing we're going to do. Well, a couple of things, really. We are going to just put a little more salt in there. And a little more pepper. And that's because we added the spinach. And we're just going to toss that up. Now, if you have some nice shaved Parmesan, that's great. It looks really pretty, but most people have this powdered Parmesan, so that's what I'm putting in here. And I'm going to take about a tablespoon and just mix it in.
Lisa Nancy was joining late. That's what it was.
This is Marin Joes Special. It is a recipe that is served daily at a restaurant in California called Marin Joes, that's in Marin County, California. It was featured on a episode of Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, and it has become a favorite here at the Buttered Home just because it is so darn good. And it's really simple, and it looks kind of boring, but man, when you eat it, you will love it. So now I'm going to grab, I made some really nice flatbreads yesterday. If you'll go to my blog at www.thebutteredhome.com, you can find the recipe for these flatbreads. They have one rise, and you cook them on the stovetop. I cooked these in my cast iron skillet. They are really, really easy to make, and we like to just take this, and you can make a wrap out of it, or you can fork and knife it if you want, but the best way to do it is just to pick it up like a big taco and watch it break and eat it that way. But wow, look at that. I mean, it doesn't look like all that much, but I promise if you taste it, it's really, really good. So I'm going to move you back over here and fix my camera. So that is Marin Joes Special. What's wrong?
You could see me pulling it away.
Oh, Tanner was pulling it away. But that's Marin Joes Special, and it's really good. It's really easy. If you're like me, you get home late every night. It is a really quick go-to meal because, like I said, the most time-consuming thing is browning the meat and browning the mushrooms. So we are at 21 minutes, and I know that I rambled for a good 3 to 4 of those. So you have a really hearty supper in less than 20 minutes. Well, less than 30 if you count browning your meat, which I did ahead of time. I cheated. So we've got some really exciting things coming up on the blog this week. If you go back in my videos and you watch our earlier Messy Kitchen Monday videos from several weeks ago, we showed you how to make homemade biscuits. And I have finally done a blog post on it. That'll be posted tomorrow night. So be sure and come back to our page here or go directly to www.thebutteredhome.com. I can't say that 3 times fast.
www.thebutteredhome.com, www.thebutteredhome.com.
You missed several W's. Anyway, we're not going to entertain you with trying to do speech things, but anyhow, we will have that recipe for the blog posted tomorrow night. If you have not signed up for our email list, I encourage you to go to the website now. There is actually a subscribe button at the top of the website, as well as a banner. There's 2 different places that you can sign up for the email list. I'll send you goodies. I'll send you recipes before everybody else gets them. As a matter of fact, the first thing you get when you sign up is the biscuit recipe. Now, what's different about the blog tomorrow with the biscuit recipe on there is it actually has pictures that kind of show you and lead you along and help you with technique on making the biscuits. So I'm no expert. I just know what works here for me at the Buttered Home, and we like sharing that with all of you. As usual, if you have any questions, be sure to shoot me a private message and I'll get back with you quicker than fried chicken gets eaten at a Sunday coming meeting. But anyway, my kids are laughing at me, but I think it's cute. Anyhow, I'm old and that shows my age, so there we are. So we thank you for joining us tonight. If you missed it, if you're just joining us now, give me a few minutes and we will save the video and you can go back and rewatch it. As with all of ours, we also post on YouTube, so be sure and go follow us there, because if it's easier for you to watch all the videos at YouTube, you can there. And as always, go to our website. We'd love for your feedback. Our pictures have progressively gotten better, and like I said last week, that's my baby. I'm really proud of it. So go check us out at www.thebutteredhome.com, and we will see y'all on Wednesday, weather permitting. But y'all have a good night. Bye.